What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Granularity.ai tutorial. Today, we are going to talk about something that's kind of been on my mind for a few weeks now. I've discovered it. I thought it was cool, so I figured I would share it with you guys. Um, Today, we're going to be playing around with three new tools, hopefully new for you because they're new for me, is LangGraph, Adaptive RAG, and Corrective RAG. Now, I am running on a few hours of sleep, so please bear with me. um, but I don't know. I couldn't sleep knowing that not everyone knows about adaptive or corrective RAG. It was just on my mind repetitively. I know usually in the past I've done a lot of AI agent videos, content using AutoGen, using Crew AI, and I've usually stayed with those frameworks and haven't really gone too far from them. But LangGraph is something that is catching up in popularity, something that is catching up in usability, and everyone already knows what LangChain is, so it makes sense to kind of incorporate that into my knowledge as well. And as I was digging into LangGraph, I discovered some papers on adaptive RAG and corrective RAG that come from LangGraph. It seems exclusively. I haven't really seen it in other AI agent frameworks. Maybe I'll do some more deep diving and see if I could find some more content on it. But I've only seen it with LangGraph. And so that's what we're going to kind of talk about today and get to the bottom of and discover how it can be useful for you, where you can use that, and how you can easily and seamlessly implement it into your own enterprise, into your own day-to-day, whatever it may be. If this sounds like something that you will be interested in, please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like. If you see fit, make sure you dislike. I just ask that if you do dislike, make sure to provide feedback. Make sure to provide some type of suggestion, comment. We want to provide the best content we can strictly for you. So anyways, let's jump right into it. Welcome back. So, like I said, we're not going to be coding all of it today because they're using LangGraph. There is a lot of code to write before you can get it working. So instead, I already kind of have it pre-built. And what we're going to do is simply just run it. I'll explain it. I'll run through it. I'll show you the output. I'll show you how to read it. And you can make your own decision on whether LangGraph is something that you would like to have a crack at, or if it maybe doesn't suit your needs and you would rather try out something like a Crew AI or AutoGen. This isn't a review, but it might turn into a review. Kind of like how you review cars, we're now reviewing different AI agent frameworks, which might be a good idea for another video later on. But we'll see. But beforehand, before we can do that, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you dislike. All I say is that if you do dislike, leave a comment, leave a suggestion, something that we can build off of and make sure we're getting the right piece of material and content to you. And also, make sure you grab yourself a drink and a hit of tea. That's good. So before, obviously, you do any type of development in Python, you gotta import some packages. So we are using Google Colab for this. Probably top two IDEs for me is Anaconda or Colab. VS Code is third. Reason being, Colab usually not for some reason, but because Colab is from Google, I'm assuming that they do a whole search across across the World Wide Web. They have a whole corpus on whatever packages that are on the internet, and usually like there isn't too many dependencies you got to install when you do install a particular package that may ask for a lot of dependencies in a VS Code or in an Anaconda. Mainly because I am a born and bred data scientist, I like to call it. Anaconda is my number one, and Google Colab is my number two, and VS Code is my number three. PyCharm, I think, is probably 3 or 4. So anyways, you're going to want to install your packages. And as you can see here, we have LangChain Community, Tick Token, LangChain OpenAI, LangChain Cohere. We're not using Cohere this time. LangChain Hub, ChromaDB, LangChain, LangGraph, Tvili Python. Now, Tvili we're using as a web search here. We're not going to use the Cohere part. I kind of just copy and pasted this from the LangGraph site. One thing I do want to state, another reason why I am using Google Colab is because with Google Colab, I don't get the error when using ChromaDB. Sometimes, on occasion, not all the time, you'll experience that when you are trying to install ChromaDB, you'll encounter an error about like the wheels not being able to be built, which then you got to install some type of C++ dependency, stuff like that. I don't like to wait. I don't feel like going through all those technicalities. And so I would much rather just find an IDE that can do it all for me without me having to do too much work. So Google Colab does this. ChromaDB doesn't give you any errors, and you can pretty much complete what you need to complete. So now that we have all of this installed, we're then going to want to use our OpenAI API key, Anthropic API key, and Tvili API key. We don't end up using this Anthropic API key. When I was playing around and I was experimenting with different models and whatnot, I was using it. But for this, we won't end up using it. But if you do have it, feel free to include it. It's up to you. But like I said, so we're going to do OpenAI key first. Let me copy and paste this in here. Boom. And then we have Anthropic next. Now again, you'll see that I don't use the Anthropic API key. So I'm kind of just doing this just because. You'll see while doing the tutorial or the how-to that all you really need is the OpenAI GPT models, and you can go from there. Mainly what you'll just need in this tutorial is the OpenAI key and the Tvili key, and you're good. So anyways, let's keep going. So once we have those initialized, cool, we then run down to here. Now, we're installing LangChain text splitter, web-based loaders, document loaders, vector stores for Chroma, OpenAI embeddings, all sorts. And for this, I am using AI agent URLs as my knowledge base to be indexed. And we're using Chroma in this as well for our documents. Chroma's free. I believe there is a paid option, but I believe for what we're doing here, we just kind of need a free version. And again, I don't know how anyone feels about chunk sizes. I think in a past one, when I did a past video a long time ago, not a long time ago, but maybe early last year, about building your own RAG tool using Pinecone. I think for that one, I had set it to maybe 800. It could have been 1,000. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think it was 500 though. But for this one, we're going to leave it at 500. So once you kind of have the embeddings done, OpenAI embeddings from LangChain, you incorporate all this and you have your URL set, you can then run and see if you encounter any errors. So only a warning, no need to worry, you can keep going. So this is where we begin to kind of do more of the prompting. So for the route query class, we're giving it a description of, given a user question, choose to route it to web search or vector store. Now again, this is adaptive RAG. Both corrective and adaptive can use web search. I know that in the corrective slide that I had, it mentioned web search. Adaptive is also able to use web search. And then, like I said, we're just using the GPT models here. So GPT-4o mini, temperature set to 0. Depending on, again, how creative you want to get, feel free to change that. And the prompt that we're going to be using is, you are an expert at routing a user question to a vector store or web search. The vector store contains documents related to agents, prompt engineering, and adversarial attacks. Use the vector store for questions on these topics, otherwise use web search. Now, the content that we have currently is just strictly on AI agents. So as long as some of the content is related to agents, fine. I didn't read all of the URLs that I collected. I believe, Salesforce, Amazon, Microsoft, they're all from pretty big name companies, nothing from Medium or any kind of like microblogging kind of site. And this is just to test out, right? Routing the question in the first place and see what it kind of brings back. So the question that I have is, for routing and testing, what is the next AI breakthrough in 2025? Now, for testing again, I have, how can AI agents help make clinical trials more efficient? So we're running 2 tests here to see what the end result could be. So for this question, for this first question router, it's using web search. What is the next AI breakthrough in 2025? And then for the second question router, how can AI agents help to make clinical trials more efficient? It's using vector store. This is a good way to test and see where it's routing questions to, how to shape your questions, and kind of see, for example, we can try it again saying, let's try another one. Let's do, what is the purpose of AI agents? Now, what should happen is that both the data sources for this question, as well as the data sources, as well as the data source for this question, should both be vector store, as you can see here. So again, it's a sure way to test where these questions are routed to, whether they're routed into web search, whether they're routed into vector store, to see how it reacts and see how it does. So now that we know that they're both going to vector store, let's keep going and do a retrieval grader. Grading, how well it retrieves and whether even if it's the correct information that it is retrieving. So I have this question: how does an AI agent work? And the prompt that I have is, you are a grader assessing relevance of a retrieved document to a user question. If the document contains keywords or semantic meaning related to the user question, grade it as relevant. It does not need to be a stringent test. The goal is to filter out erroneous retrievals, give a binary score, yes or no, score to indicate whether the document is relevant to the question. And again, for the class grade documents, we have documents are relevant to the question, yes or no. That's all we want. So, for example, how does an AI agent work? We just want to know if it pulls relevant information from the documents that or from the URLs that we've already inputted. And as you can see, it has a binary score of yes. Now, let's just say, let's do, what is the main topics in mechanical engineering? Question mark. Now, what should happen is that it pops back no. So what I'm showing you here now is going through, number one, building the vector store using Chroma. Number two, building a class that can tell you and that you can test how your questions are being routed depending on how you ask them. For example, if we say, what is the next AI breakthrough of 2025, when the documents that are in the URLs don't even pertain to what the next AI breakthrough is, but it's simply just giving you a rundown of what AI agents are. Obviously, the agent will have to, or the RAG agent will have to do a search on the internet rather than completely go and use the sources provided, right? Because the question is completely out of context from what's already provided. And then that brings us into grading whether or not the question that's even here, the question that's being presented, is even related to the documents at hand. So, like a question we have here, what is the main topic in mechanical engineering? What the binary score should come back as is no. Correct. What is the main topic of mechanical engineering? It has nothing to do with AI agents, depending on how you look at it. I know, like, AI is AI is making its way into robotics. At least large language models as we know it is making its way into robotics. And maybe down the road, then you can ask this question and you can get a whole slew of an answer. But for the topics that we've loaded into our vector store have nothing to do with mechanical engineering, period. So that's why we're getting this no binary score. No, this question has nothing to do with the information that you've loaded in already. So I don't remember what this one does. Let's see. Okay, yes. So this takes the same question. Now we're just generating a response at this point, testing out the response. So this takes the same question here and places it into this chat OpenAI function to then generate a response just to test it out. Whether it pulls from the internet, whether it pulls from the vector store, we don't really care. We just want to know that it can respond in a coherent way versus saying like, I don't know, or please try again later, stuff like that. It can still respond on a topic when it comes to mechanical engineering. But for example, when we want it to respond strictly from the documents at hand, and let's do, will AI agents automate work in the future? Will AI agents automate the future of work? This should come back as yes, hopefully. Good. So once it comes back as yes, this is how we know that already it's going to take information from these documents because it already knows that the question pertains to the documents. So what's going to happen in this generate piece here is whatever information that is relevant to that question that is in those documents will be used in how the AI generates its answer. So in a summary, the AI is recognizing that the information, or GPTs recognize that the information in those documents are related to the question, and it's going to take the information from those documents to then formulate the response for the user. Yes, AI agents are expected to automate the future of work by working alongside or on behalf of employees, enhancing productivity and efficiency. They can handle the routine tasks, allowing workers to focus on more meaningful activities, and are anticipated to drive significant changes in how work is accomplished. The shift is seen as a paradigm change in business processes and collaboration. Now, let's ask maybe a more specific question. Will Salesforce's, what makes Salesforce's agent force I don't want to say special, but let's say what makes Salesforce's agent force different from other AI agent frameworks? Let's go ahead and run this. Came back as no. Let's try agent force. That's not good. What makes agent force different from, well, I guess I can't really answer this question that much. Might have to search the internet for a better answer. Let's kind of see if we could make this question a bit better. What makes agent force different? What makes agent force? What are the main topics regarding agent force? Let's see if it then comes back. I think that's what it's called. What are agents? Oh, it was what are AI agents. So it might just be a comprehensive documentation on what exactly is. May not be about agent force itself. So maybe I'm kind of asking a question out of the realm from what the documents are about. How can AI agents benefit me in productivity? Now it should be yes, since it's talking general about it, just AI agents and not. If you know Salesforce these days, they release something called Agent Force that I've been kind of digging into and learning about myself. So that's kind of why I wanted to see what it would say, since the documentation was for Salesforce, but I guess it's just tailored strictly to agents and not its own agent force. So then let's take that question. As you can see, it relates to the documents we already inputted, and then place it here and see what response we get. Since we know that it comes directly from the documentation we inputted. AI agents enhance productivity by autonomously handling pro tasks, allowing employees to focus more on critical creative activities. They provide quick and accurate responses, improving customer satisfaction and operational efficiency by integrating agents because business can streamline, reduce costs, and make informed decisions on real-time data. Nice. Cool. Cool. So there's another class that LangGraph recommended to also build, and it's something called hallucination grader, which I think is pretty cool to test whether or not um, the responses from the GPT model are something that is of a hallucination. There is there's a little bit of side story. There's one person that I used to work with that used to hate when people would say that AI is hallucinating. I could never understand what the issue was with calling it a hallucination. Um, but he used to absolutely hate it. And I'm assuming it's because it could be applying like human qualities to AI. But his reasoning was because like it's hallucinating means like you're seeing things or you're comprehending things that just aren't there, period. Right? Where actually the case is AI isn't hallucinating, but maybe getting confused about the corpus of information or the context you provided to it, and maybe it's just not trained enough. So it's not hallucinating; it just hasn't learned enough to give a proper answer. And so, anyways, people used to kind of debate with him. I used to watch conversations with him and other people about like whether like it should be called hallucinating or not. Anyways, that's besides the case. Here in this class, again, we want the answer to be strictly yes or no. You are a grader assessing whether an LLM generation is grounded in or supported by a set of retrieved facts. Give a binary score, yes or no. Yes means that the answer is grounded or supported by the set of facts. So let's kind of go ahead and run this. And as you can see, yes, the the information that was provided from the generated text here is grounded and supported by the set of facts from the documentation, again, that we've provided in the beginning. I gotta get some tea real quick. So the whole idea of this, right, is for the RAG itself, the RAG agent itself, to adapt, learn, assess, and to tell whether the information that it is putting together, I don't want to say thinking about, but whether the information that it's putting together or outputting, responding with, is grounded in facts or is it not? So for example, let's go back up here and say, let's do the mechanical engineering question. What are some topics or mechanical engineering is useless. Sorry to any of the mechanical engineers out there. This is just a test question, I promise. I love you, mechanical engineers. It should say no, right? As in, it's not relevant to the information that we've already provided. We go here, and it can give a response, sure, on mechanical engineering, right? Based on what the GPT model has already been trained with in of itself. But once we go here to test whether this information that we just, this question, or the response, I'm sorry, that we've just tested, whether it's supported by the information that we've already inputted in the beginning, the URLs, or if it's not supported by the information that we already inputted in the beginning. So let's go ahead and try that out. And as you can see, we get a no, right? Because from the start, the URLs that we inputted strictly had to deal with AI agents, and that's it. So anyways, This is just, again, that test to derive and tell for the RAG to tell whether a question even has to deal with the information or the knowledge base that we've created in the beginning. So let's keep going. Now, answer grader. We want to be able to grade the answer that the RAG agent provided. So let's change our question back real quick again, and let's make it do with AI agents. How can AI agents help me be more productive at work? So again, it should say yes, as in it does have to deal with the documentation we provided. This should also use the information provided from the documentation. And then we go here, and is this a hallucination? It's gonna say it when it's grading whether or not it's a hallucination, which I guess I could change this prompt a bit more. Maybe I worded this terribly. We want it to say yes, meaning it is grounded in and supported in facts that we provided in the knowledge base. Yeah. So now we want the answer to be graded. The answer provided by the AI, we want that graded to see whether or not it's a sufficient, good, or concise answer, whatever you want. And maybe it could be formulated better. So let's go here. You are a grader assessing whether an answer addresses or resolves a question. Give a binary yes or no. Yes means that the answer resolves the question. Now for this, I think this should just be a straight up yes. It answered the question. I wanted to know how AI agents can make me more productive at work. AI agents can significantly boost your productivity at work by handling routine tasks and complex assignments on your behalf, allowing you to focus on more strategic activities. They can operate continuously, managing tasks like customer inquiries, project management, and data analysis, which saves time and reduces errors. By integrating AI into your work life, you can streamline operations and enhance collaboration with your team. Wow, that was a lot. So now that we know that the answer provided by the GPT model meets the needs of the question, we then want to know if we can optimize the question in the first place to be tested again. So let's put it through the question optimizer and maybe have it. To me, this is kind of where the adaptive piece comes in. Is sure, we asked our question in the beginning and it was just off the bat. How can AI make my work life more productive? But what if there is a better way to ask this question so that the agent can get, or the agent can get and give me a better answer, not only from the documentation, but maybe a mixture of what it's already been trained on. That's kind of what the question rewriter here is for. So you are a question rewriter. I forgot the R in there. You are a question rewriter that converts an input question to a better version that is optimized for vector store retrieval. Look at the input and try to reason about the underlying semantic intent or meaning. Here is the initial question. Formulate an improved question. And again, we're using GPT-4o mini for this. Temperature set to 0. We don't want too much creativity. What are the ways AI agents can enhance my productivity in the workplace? So it's adapting to the context we provided in our knowledge base in the past, and we're asking it, maybe this question, how can AI agents help me be more productive, wasn't that good of a question, right? Maybe it wasn't optimal it wasn't an optimal question to ask the knowledge base that we already have. There's always a better way to do something, right? So here we're asking the agent to adapt to my knowledge base and say, hey, I have this question. Could you make it better to, could you make a better question to ask to my knowledge base to derive me a better response? And so here we have, what are the ways AI agents can enhance my productivity in the workplace? So here's where we involve Tavili. I think it's Tavili, I think is how you pronounce it. And this is kind of similar to SERPer, DuckDuckGo search. If you're familiar with like using agents to surf the web, this is kind of the same thing. Except this is, I think you got to pay for Tavili. I can't remember. But there is an API key needed for this. Same thing with SERPer. I don't think you need one for DuckDuckGo search. So let's run this. Because again, like I said at the beginning, the agent for both corrective and adaptive have the options to search the web. So now here's us initializing everything in the graph itself. And here is us kind of putting together things: retrieve, generate, retrieve documents, generate answer, grade documents, transform the query. Again, that's where we wanted it to write a better question than what we asked originally. Perform a web search if needed, and then route the question to GPT to then generate an answer that can answer our question. So here is us. Again, these are all functions that we created. Again, like I said, LangGraph to me, I think, has a lot more that you need to do than is necessary, I believe. I would much rather use an AutoGen or a Crew AI in this case. But again, to each his own. Yeah. So anyways, let's go ahead and run it. And then here's us running it itself, or not yet. Here's us compiling it. And then here is us running it. Now, let's do this. We're going to do So we're going to, again, taking it through step by step, right? We have where we already loaded our knowledge base, right? We have already tested, right, what questions will be routed to our vector store, what questions would probably be routed to a web search. We've also tested whether the questions that we were asking are related to the source we provided, or are they not? And you could test multiple questions. Moving forward, we then go into the answer that is generated from the questions that we've asked questions that we asked to the GPT model. Are they hallucinations? That's another way, or a check that we did. And then asking, once it said yes or no, then asking GPT to then optimize your question to ask a better question to our knowledge base to provide a better answer. All this is fitted or placed into this cell here. Again, when it comes to retrieving, generating, grading documents, transforming the query that we asked, performing a web search if needed, checking to see if one is needed, routing the question, decide to generate, determines whether to generate an answer or regenerate a question, determines whether the generation is grounded in the document and answers questions. Again, like I said in the beginning, the yes or no, determining whether the question that we asked even is relevant to the information we provided. And then moving forward, determining whether something is hallucination or not. So all these checks is being ran in the back end by the RAG agent, the adaptive RAG agent that we just built. Once we ask this question, what are the fundamental principles and mechanisms behind the functioning of an AI agent? It's either going to perform a web search or it's going to use the vector store. So let's go ahead. So here, route question to RAG. It's retrieved information. Documents are relevant. Graded the documents. Check hallucinations. Generation is grounded in documents. Again, this is the generation that was created by the GPT model. It did a check. It also did a check to make sure the generation addresses the question, and then answered with AI agents are software programs designed to interact with their environment, collect data, and autonomously perform tasks to achieve specific goals set by humans. They operate by sensing their environment, making rational decisions based on data, and implementing tasks to fulfill their objectives. The fundamental mechanisms include goal determination, information acquisition, and task execution, often utilizing machine learning or improved performance. This could be useful, like I said in the beginning, in a chatbot, right? Sometimes users don't even know what to ask, right? Especially if you've ever created an AI chatbot, you'll notice users sometimes have no idea what to ask. The question can be fairly ambiguous. It may not even be related to the knowledge base that's in the back end of a certain chatbot. It's helpful to have a mechanism within your process that can determine whether the information that is being asked for is even relevant to the knowledge base, determine whether the answer from that GPT model is even also relevant to the knowledge base, and then see if the question asked by the user could possibly be a better question that can be better answered, right? Extensively. That's where the adaptive piece comes in, is that it's not kind of going to ask constantly to the user. Hopefully not all the time. Again, it's not perfect, but let's say 70 to 80, let's say 75 to 80% of the time, it's adapting to the user, right? It's saying this user may not have asked the perfect question, but let's see what we can do to kind of make the question more relevant, more contextual, so that we can give this user the best answer that we can get. That's extremely helpful, again, when it comes to chatbots, when it comes to educational stuff, right? A lot of times children, kids, students also don't know the right question to ask. So it's beneficial if you have an AI RAG agent that can provide you a little bit of help when trying to figure out what you're looking for, right? And maybe, again, we're not building a whole process here, but obviously, if you productionize this, you kind of, if the agent isn't necessarily able to ask the question in one go, you could then say, oh, okay, let's ask some more questions and dive a bit deeper and see how, we can build an agent that can ultimately help. So anyways, if this was helpful to you, if you found this interesting, please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you like. And please make sure you comment, suggest, leave feedback. Matter of fact, one thing, we already know that it can pull relevant documentation. Let's ask another question and see if we can get it to search the web. So, what AI breakthroughs will be happening in 2025? So the expected response is that it directly goes to web search. It doesn't go to the documents. Sure, it might say AI, but the documents that we've incorporated strictly have to do with agents versus just general AI breakthroughs. So I'm expecting that it goes directly to web search. Route question, route question to web search. It doesn't even go um, to looking into the documentation. Went straight to web search, check hallucinations, generation addresses question. In 2025, AI breakthroughs will focus on advancements in machine learning and deep learning, particularly in fields like biology and chemistry for drug discovery. AI powered agents. So maybe it did take, okay, I see, generation is grounded in documents. Maybe it did take some information from the documents at hand. AI powered agents are expected to revolutionize industries by executing tasks autonomously and streamline workflows. Additionally, AI driven automation and robotics will enhance development processes and improve security measures. So it took a little bit of both, which is actually pretty cool if you really think about it. It doesn't just utilize the documents, it doesn't just utilize the web search. Um, it mends both to kind of give, a better, more concise, and more cohesive answer. Um, Sorry to repeat myself, but if you did like the video, if you did like the information that you heard, if it was new to you just as much as it was new for me, please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you like. If your heart sees fit, please make sure you dislike. All I ask is that if you do dislike, please make sure you comment, leave feedback, leave suggestions so that we can know what to provide to you. Um, and how to make your AI knowledge journey better, and ask more questions, and be curious about what else is out there. Um, and with that, bye bye.